Monty once again from DPLSurve Equipment. Today is going to be a nice day. I think me and my wife are going to go out and about and spend some Bitcoin and stuff our faces and run some errands and such. It's nothing like having a lack of drama and a lack of stress in your life. Trust me. Try to situate yourself, if you can, to where you can have longer and longer stretches of times when you don't have a lot of drama coming from anywhere. Bosses, friends, relatives, associates, and the stresses. Try to get rid of as much of that crap as well. You just don't need it, and it's an unnecessary burden. So the things that are causing you drama and stress and all that, try to make sure you understand that. Sorry for the noise. Try to make sure you understand that that's a major cause of health-related issues and such. It's just to have too much of that in your life. You don't need it. So what's going on today? The firefighters in California are getting a handle on the fires. It looks like 97, 98, 99% containment in a lot of these areas. The Woolsey fire and the Camp fire, they look like this. The fires themselves is not going to be an issue. Now we got to deal with what happens if we get some rain, which is forecast for 2 or 3 days out of this week, I think. So that could be an issue as far as mudslides and ashes washing away remains of the people who have yet to be identified. They died in the fires. So, tragic situation. Send your condolences, send your wishes, donations, everything you can to help all the people who have been ravaged by the fires, particularly in California. What else is going on? It looks like I think Jim Acosta, of course, has his has complete restoration of his press credentials. For those of you who don't know, Jim Acosta is a journalist, a reporter from CNN, and President Trump got the impression that he would strip Jim Acosta of his press pass and not allow him to attend press conferences in the White House. So some judge decided otherwise. And said, look, you can't violate this guy's free speech, and you didn't even exercise due process. You didn't even give him a hearing or anything like that. So you just can't take away some reporter's press pass based upon you feeling like he didn't follow your unstated protocol, whatever that was, during press conferences. So anyway, now Jim Acosta is back in business, and hopefully this will set an example going forward in terms of making sure that there is some sort of protocol, and if someone's going to violate it, then it needs to be stated in advance what the protocol is. You just can't arbitrarily make up rules. A lot of the immigrants are indeed at the U.S.-Mexican border. Unfortunately, they're being confronted by militia groups, vigilantes, border patrol people, everybody that considers these downtrodden, desperate people a threat to society, which is kind of insane considering that America has been built upon immigrants from day one, and all of a sudden immigrants are the problem, supposedly. So anyway, I'm running a poll on my website, POLL, on my website, and we're talking about immigration and the implications of it, and how do you feel about it? Does it contribute to America, or does it not? So you may want to take a look at my poll. Go to articles and take a look at that poll and give us your impression. We're going to be running more and more polls just because I think they're fun, and I think that people get a chance to express their opinions on different topics, and at the same time we get feedback and start a conversation, hopefully an intellectual conversation. Let's see. My name is Monty, owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. I run a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent in layaway as well. We have an ever-growing media library. It consists of articles, podcasts, blogs, demonstration videos, you name it, polls, as I mentioned. A lot of good information, I think, a lot of very useful information. One article, for instance, yesterday had to do with, it's kind of off topic as far as our business is concerned, but that's what we do. We publish articles, not so much having everything, we don't want everything have to do with surveillance and security and spying, but other things as well. Health and fitness is one category of item, or one category that we have that we cover. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, we cover that. Health and finance, economics, and business and economics, we cover that too. Anyway, under health and finance, one of the latest articles, for instance, you guys may want to look at is some scientists. They think they discovered a way to counteract the allergies to peanuts. A larger percentage of people are getting allergies from anything that's been handled or touched or in the presence of peanuts. So that's why you see on the labels that these cookies may have been produced using equipment that may have traces of peanuts or something on it or in it or whatever, and you need to be aware of that. So it's kind of a weird new situation, world reality that we're in, where peanut allergies are so predominant. You have to put it on every single warning label when it comes to food products and stuff. But anyway, there's some scientists, they think that they've discovered a way to almost inoculate us against peanut allergies, those who are susceptible or sensitive to that. And take a look at the article and see what they're proposing, because going forward it looks like we may have less of an issue with peanut allergies affecting everyone if the FDA approves of this particular product, this solution that these scientists have come up with. So anyway, we try to, like that article, just like that one, we try to come up with cutting-edge, relevant, practical things that you can take a look at. So you may want to read that one, just in case you have kids or yourself that's allergic to peanuts, for instance. What else? Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin, Ethereum Cash, Litecoin, and Bcash. All of them, you can use them in our shopping cart. I know the crypto market is down right now, and a lot of people are scratching their heads in terms of what the implications of that is all about. I just want to say that whenever you're investing in anything, you want to stay committed, stay focused, and understand, unless the fundamentals have changed for your investment. In other words, if you're invested in Microsoft, Intel, or Apple, unless there's a major change or something affecting the operation of the company, you don't need to second guess yourself every day or every other day when you read a headline. So just because a stock fluctuates wildly while you hold it, it doesn't mean you need to trade in and out of it. You should try to keep your position, stay in it, and if anything, when you get these dips like we have in the cryptocurrency space, even in the stock markets, for instance, you may want to consider adding to your positions as compared to selling out at the wrong time. It just doesn't make sense. We'll cover some of that in the podcast, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Anyway, the website itself has been redesigned, and I think it looks good and it works very fast and very efficient. We're adding more enhanced features all the time, just for the sake of giving you guys and allowing the website to operate more efficiently in terms of what it can do and everything like that. So there's always going to be back-end enhancements and then things on the front end that customers can see and work with that's going to hopefully make the experience a little bit more enjoyable, like the poll, like the chat service, like, you name it, cryptocurrencies on the shopping cart. All these things we hopefully will give you more choices and stuff and benefits when you patronize our website. And also, we have tons of new products and tons of used products. It took me a while to put all the new products on there and list all the used products. So go there and take a look. If you like spy gadgets and state-of-the-art law enforcement grade surveillance and security counter surveillance products, go there and take a look. And I'm pretty sure you'll find something, whether it's bug detectors, trackers, hidden cameras, personal protection products, you name it. We have it on the website. And we want to poke a finger in the eye of the traditional finance industry as much as possible, mainly because those guys are really not, I don't have a whole lot of confidence, put it that way. I keep reading just about every day that some major bank, some major financial institution, some major credit card company or something is getting caught red-handed doing something. There's a company called Societe Generale. I can't remember whether they're Italian or not, but anyway, they've been caught red-handed money laundering and some other illicit activity in addition to money laundering, but they got fined $1.8 billion. Excuse me. So you heard it right, $1.8 billion with a B, and some of the charges, or at least one of the charges, has to do with money laundering, and so they have to pay out almost $2 billion for taking advantage of the rules and regulations. And this is just one case out of, like 100 or something that I'm documenting on my website, so you can go there. And if you think if you believe the people in Washington and New York, or the attorney generals or whoever, some of the people were talking about Bitcoin is where the illicit activity occurs. You ain't seen nothing until you see the fines and the penalties and the settlements and things coming out of Wall Street for these financial institutions. You're going to see hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fines and penalties and charges and such. And if you think giving your credit card and personal information to the credit card companies is a smart decision, you got to keep in mind that even Google is going on record and to letting the whole world know that it's been about 2 billion, at least 1.5 billion breaches, data records that have been stolen by hackers from the credit card companies and banks and such. So the more information you give them, the more information that they can allow the hackers and such to get. So remember, the cryptocurrency space is new and it's growing, and it's going to make a big deal. But right now, you got to understand it's going to be volatile. It's going to be we have to fight for what we want, right? That includes politicians, corporate America, naysayers of all sorts are going to be talking about, this is a problem, that is a problem with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. But we already know that, you're fighting a losing game if you think that all of the illicit activity taking place in traditional finance is okay. If you think those bloodsuckers are that it's perfectly okay for those guys to get away with murder and not have any jails, penalties, not serving any jail time at least. If you think that's okay, then I guess you can stay with them. But I think a lot of people really want to change, and they really want to stop giving away so much information just to have it leaked out to hackers and criminals and marketing companies, you name it. It's just a mess in terms of what's going on in traditional finance, the traditional finance industry. Anyway, keep in mind that the peer-to-peer, decentralized, borderless, permissionless nature of Bitcoin and blockchain is going to be the future. And in the meantime, we're just going to have to deal with the hiccups and the ups and downs until we get to the point where we can actually use it as a primary mechanism for payments and savings and store of value, okay? So let's take a look at this particular podcast that we're going to do today. I haven't done a segment, what I call It's the Economy Stupid. I haven't done that in a while, but that's what we're going to do today. And trust me, it is the economy stupid, and this is episode 25. So let's get right into it. Now, the economy stupid, just so you guys will know, is based upon the idea that a lot of people struggle, a lot of people are confused, a lot of people don't quite understand or know how to make the connection between things that are going on within the economy versus how it affects their wallets, your investment account, your retirement account, your checking savings account, your mortgage and such. So during the economy stupid session, that's what I try to do. I try to make the connections, connect the dots for you. So just at the top of my head, what's going on in the economy right now is, for instance, the stock market is taking a beating, right? Stock market is selling off every other day, 300, 400, 500 points. It was down probably 500 points at one point yesterday, and this morning I heard that we hit a low of probably 400, almost 500 points today. Now I don't know where it's going to close at, but typically what happens when you have these types of dips that occur over and over again for a protracted period of time, pretty soon all of your investment gains for the 12-month period, they're wiped out, right? So that's not good. So that means that most of the profits that you were going to realize for the last 12 months, they're gone. And you have to ask yourself, is this the start of a trend or something? And that's what I want to cover here. It looks like we're in a trend in the regular stock market. The tech sector, for instance, has been a major investment area for a lot of people, a lot of investment companies like Fidelity, like Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase. All these guys take your money. They have mutual funds and they have brokerage accounts and such, and they take your money and they invest it in the tech sector. They go to Microsoft, or what's known as the FANG stocks, the Facebooks, Amazon, Netflix, Googles of the world, and they put your money into those stocks. Well, guess what happens? Guess what has happened? Those guys are taking a beating. Facebook has almost fallen off of a cliff. Netflix is actually not making any profits, and they're growing, but they're not making any profits. And if we go into a downturn, companies who aren't making profits usually don't do that well, let alone the ones that do make profits. But the remainder of the FANG sector, the Googles and the Amazon, some of these guys, they're predicting slower or sluggish sales growth going forward. And that usually means that the entire sector now has a problem, right? The tech sector itself is going to come under pressure, and that's what's happening now. When you start, even with Apple, when you start telling investors or forecasting lackluster sales, like with the iPhone, for instance, the iPhone sales are slowing. Tim Cook is under a lot of pressure right now to transition probably from hardware to more services related. They want to do cloud-based services. They want to do whatever type of services, music streaming, whatever. Probably some television-related thing going forward, like production, like Amazon Studios or something like that. Everybody wants to do independent films and their own production. So going forward, that's probably what Apple's going to be looking at. But right now, they are wholly dependent almost on hardware sales of iPhones, and that portion of the business, which is a large portion, is falling apart. Okay, people just don't want to pay the premium for those phones. When you have, again, you got to connect the dots. When you have a sluggish economy, a slowing economy, and I think we're actually in a recession. So anyway, when people stop spending that type of money that they were spending on those phones, now Apple is affected, right? Even Amazon, they practically were giving away the products from their retail operations. They with the Prime services, they lure you in with all these additional services and benefits and things through your Prime membership, and they subsidize that lack of money that they get from retail sales. They subsidize that. The money is coming from actually Amazon Web Services and some of the other operations, right? So again, sometimes you have these money losing operations as part of your company, but you subsidize the losses on this side with losses with gains on the other side, right? So a lot of companies are unfortunately that's what they're doing. They give away something on one side and they hope to make it up by making a profit in some other area, just like phones themselves with the phone companies, the Verizons and the T-Mobiles and such. They almost give you the hardware and try to make it up on the service itself, and that's obviously something that Amazon is doing with their on the retail side. When you buy your products and stuff like that from Amazon, they don't make as much because they're squeezing profits so tightly. The vendors and the suppliers and the third-party sellers, their profits are squeezed so much. That's why I refuse to sell on Amazon, because I don't want to make my product into a commoditized product that's basically just one out of a billion that people can find on Amazon and get from Amazon itself. Besides, I like to offer my customers superior tech support and customer service and all of that, as compared to if you're on Amazon, you're not going to pick up a phone anytime soon and call Mr. Amazon and say, what about this spy gadget that I bought from you an hour ago? I need some help with it. They don't work that way. So anyway, just to connect those dots for you guys, the FANG stocks are taking a hit. The bond market is taking a hit. As an example, there's Aramco, which is the Saudi Arabian this oil-related venture. They wanted to float that to allow investors all over the planet to benefit or to take a position in this Saudi Aramco deal. That was going to be a major, like an initial public offering or something, whereby they were going to raise at least $70 billion. And guess what happened? Bond investors and investors all over the planet, they when things slowed down, they decided, no, thank you, never mind. We don't want to have anything to do with it right now. We had other better things to do with our money. And this was way before the controversy associated with the Khashoggi situation in Istanbul, Turkey. So the appetite for bonds is falling apart. I think I covered in another podcast yesterday, but I'll just reiterate. Another indication that the economy is maybe going into a recession, or is already in a recession rather, is the lackluster demand for bonds. GE, which was a AAA company at one time, their bonds are rated like a junk bond. So, and some of the other companies, they're having trouble, with their bond sales. I think Apple and a number of others were issuing bonds, more bonds to help pay down the debt. They don't have much debt. At Apple or some of these other companies, but they like the idea of financing or going to the bond market to raise money rather than spend their cash, right? So, but they're finding that there's lackluster demand for even AAA bonds from Apple or whoever it is, even your government. The United States government has $22 trillion of debt that they need to constantly try to keep a handle on, and funding the operations of the government is a major effort, right? But guess what? Their attempts to go into the bond market and issue debt. That's not working out very well, mainly because the Chinese and the Russians and such aren't that interested in that type of debt either. So you have some major issues going on with the economy. So just keep in mind that this is a sign that you need to keep your powder dry. That means keep as much cash on hand, pay off your credit card debt. Because I was also reading that a lot of the banks are getting desperate. They're going to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, and they're pleading and begging those guys to lower the standards for what constitutes a good FICO score. The FICO score is basically the score that they keep, that they maintain to indicate whether or not you're a good credit risk or not. And once upon a time, you know, the banks focused on somebody with a FICO score of 700 or 800, but now it looks like you're considered okay if you have 670, because most of the people who are 700 or 800, they've already exhausted most of their borrowing capacity. So now the guys want to get desperate, and they want to go to the subprime group, the 670 group and under, and the banks want to go to those guys, and they want to try to stick them with unsecured loans of all things. So if you get a solicitation in the mail allowing you to borrow $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, even though you know it's unsecured, it's a personal loan, that's what's happening now. The banks are getting desperate. So that's another sign. You got to pay attention to the signs. When the banks decide that they want to lower their standards to the point of going to subprime borrowers and taking a risk on an unsecured loan, knowing full well that you can walk away from that loan at any time and they won't even have collateral that they can seize, right? Now they have an issue. So I can bet you that if the banks aren't careful, they're going to be on the hook for hundreds of billions of dollars if they expand this program too much and allow too many people to borrow money with unsecured loans. Okay, because when things get tough and you have a personal loan and versus a car payment or a house payment, the unsecured loan is going to be the last thing that you're going to be worried about if it comes down to, do I pay off my car or my home or feed my family, right? So that's another sign. Let's see, what else going on as far as things I want you guys to pay attention to. The banks, your government has gone to the banks and told them to make sure they have sufficient capital requirements. During the last 2008 financial crisis, for instance, the banks went insolvent. A lot of them, they went to the government with their hats in their hands, and they were begging for bailouts. Well, the government learned a valuable lesson during that time, and now they're saying to the banks, "You guys better put money away, so that when things turn down, because they will turn down, and they're already turned down right now, right? So the banks are already the government is already telling the banks, beef up your capital requirements. Make sure you keep enough cash on hand. I don't care if you want to invest in this and invest in that and do all these other fancy things with your money. I want you to set aside a certain amount of money per bank to cover the potential losses that you may incur if the economy turns down and people need, and consumers need to borrow. Last time that happened, because credit gets tight when you go into a recession, right? So now the government is saying, you guys put the money away right now, because when things get tight, you don't have to cut off all of the people from borrowing, from getting credit from the banks. So anyway, a lot of banks are going to have to try and set aside as much money as possible, because the government is already warning them. So when your government warns the banks even prior to a recession, guess what? That should tell you again that this is a sign that somebody is predicting that the situation is pretty dire, and the government doesn't want your banks to be caught with their pants down, right? So another sign. Um, I can go on and on and on, but I just want to make sure you guys understand. I guess the last one is this one, okay, on the economy stupid, episode 25. The last one is this. Inflation is reaching a high level, okay? Now, the reason why this is important to look at is because even with the decline in oil prices, regular consumer goods, foodstuffs, etc., everything else is going up. And that typically means that the corporate America has pretty much decided that they're not making much money. In other words, when sales fall off, you need to make up the difference. You need to increase your prices because of a lack of sales. In other words, for the few people that are remaining that still come into your store and buy your products, you got to charge them more money to offset the loss associated with the majority of the people that aren't spending, right? So now you're seeing a higher rate of inflation pretty much across the board, and that indicates that companies know full well that they have a lack of volume sales now across the board. You know, for the most part, people overall aren't spending as much. So what you do is you raise your prices on your products and services, so that the few people who are still coming in and patronizing your stores, you could make some money, right? As compared to not making much money at all. So anyway, that's another sign when companies get desperate, they start raising prices, going into an economic downturn. That's just a last desperate attempt at making sure that they do make something as compared to hardly nothing at all. Don't be deceived and confused about, Black Friday sales and Alibaba Singles Days and or Amazon, reporting good numbers as a result of these holiday sales gimmicks. Those are one-off events. Look at the big trend, look at the big pictures, and understand that your government wouldn't be talking to the banks about preparation. Credit card issuers wouldn't be going to Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian talking about lowering standards for borrowing or soliciting to those subprime customers. Automobile companies wouldn't use their financing divisions to make 5, 10, 15-year automobile loans. These are signs of desperation. Okay, so don't be led to believe that anything otherwise. You don't do these types of things unless you have to. Okay, you don't want to, because long-term loans on a car, for instance, they're more risky than a short-term loan. If my loan is on my car, if it's 5 years or under, that's less risky, right, as compared to a 10 or 15-year automobile loan. So anyway, when you see these things, just make sure you understand what's going on and why. So anyway, you heard it here first. We're in a recession, and safeguard your personal finances and such for your sake and your family's sake and your business sake, because these things could last for a while. But in the cryptocurrency space, for some reason, the Bitcoins and the cryptocurrencies are taking a hit right alongside massive declines in the regular stock markets and the economy overall, which shouldn't happen. But I think at some point, if we're lucky, and we'll keep our fingers crossed, people are going to start to realize that money is going to start coming out of, well, even though it is already, it's coming out of traditional stocks and bonds and stuff. But we haven't seen the influx into the cryptocurrency space, which I think is going to happen at some point. So anyway, with the Fidelities and the New York Stock Exchange deals and some of these others, at some point we should see the influx of money coming into this space. And if you want to look like a genius, you'll be prepared with your cryptocurrency portfolio. So anyway, as we like to say at the conclusion of every podcast, you guys keep your eyes and ears open and stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good day. Thank you, and bye.